Okay, this is English 101, week 5, part 11. All right, we're really getting far here. Um, so Socrates says here, um, right, his whole point is that there's a kind of craziness, which, by the way, notice there's a connection for him. People in love and philosophers are crazy in the same way. Why? Because the philosophers spend their time thinking about beauty, truth, and goodness and these kind of higher heavenly things, and so they ignore earthly shit that most people care about, like money. It's not as important to them. But people in love, he says, people think you're crazy when you're in love. Well, he's going to define what kind of crazy it is. He says the reason people, when you're in love, people think you're crazy is because your soul, your good horse, is being reminded of the higher heavenly things that it saw when it was just a pure soul before it was in your body. That when you see the beauty of a person, your soul is reminded of a higher heavenly beauty. So that being in love is just like being a philosopher, because you are pulled away from things other people care about and you're thinking about higher heavenly, non-earthly things, says Socrates. All right, so now he's going to get to kind of defining how love actually works, and this is again one of those real strange parts. Okay, he would like to fly away, but he cannot. He is like a bird fluttering and looking upward and careless of the world below, and he is therefore thought to be mad, right? People think he's crazy. Um, because you're thinking about things that are not earthly. Why fly away? Because your soul wants to fly away to those heavenly things. Remember that Socrates says that thinking about beauty, truth, and goodness causes your soul's wings to grow, and that the soul wants to go up and fly away to the heavens. And if this is happening in your body, he says, it makes you feel crazy, and that's what love is. Okay, as I have shown, this of all inspirations to be the noblest and the highest, and the offspring of the highest to him who has or shares in it, and that he who loves the beautiful is called a lover because he partakes of it. For as has already been said, okay, so here's coming into his conclusion here. Every soul of, not really conclusion, but concluding this part, every soul of man has in the way of nature beheld true being, right? Meaning every soul knows about these, you're born knowing about these higher heavenly things like beauty, truth, and goodness. This was the condition of her passing into the form of man, right? Any person who is a person, Socrates says, got there because they must have gotten a glimpse of beauty, truth, and goodness. But all souls do not easily recall the things of the other world, the higher heavenly world. They may have seen them for a short time only, or they may have been unfortunate in their earthly lot, and not having their hearts turned to unrighteousness through some corrupting influence, they may have lost the memory of the holy things which once they saw. So some people had hard lives, and they got corrupted or screwed up, and that really caused them to forget about that higher heavenly world, and so now all they care about is money or power. And it's hard for them to see to remember these higher heavenly things. But everybody, when they see earthly beauty, is reminded, says Socrates, of this kind of higher heavenly beauty and the kinds of things that philosophers care about. Right, they may have lost the memory. Few only retain an adequate remembrance of them. And they, when they behold any image of that other world, are wrapped in amazement. But they are ignorant of what the rapture means, because they do not clearly perceive. For there is no light of justice or temperance or any of the other higher ideas which are precious to souls in the earthly copies of them, and they are seen through a glass dimly. And there are few who, going to the images, behold in them the realities, and these only with difficulties. This is a really odd and interesting theory about the nature of love. Socrates thinks that what love is it's I don't even know how to describe this. It's reminding you of higher heavenly things. So that when you're but that many people are forgetful of those higher heavenly things because their souls only got the small glimpse of them, or you used to know it and then you got corrupted and it caused you to forget about those higher heavenly things, just like you might have a dream and then you forget the dream. Um, so Socrates says that when you fall in love with someone, you're not actually in love with them. You're in love with what they remind you of, which is pure beauty, pure goodness, pure love. that has very little to do. It's not the person is held, the person in front of you, the body in front of you, is reminding your soul of higher heavenly philosophical stuff. Um, Now, okay, so that's his theory. Now, on the one hand, that sounds quite bad because it's like you're almost ignoring the person in front of you. But on the other hand, there's something really inspiring about it because it means that very few people are philosophers. Very few people become professional philosophers. It's not really a job most people get. It's really just like a handful of university professors. But just about everybody falls in love. And when they do, Socrates says, they're being philosophers a little bit because they're some part of you that is in love is thinking about higher, heavenly, more interesting, more important, bigger philosophical things. So very few people are philosophers, but everyone in love, says Socrates, is a little bit of a philosopher. Okay. Okay. There was a time when the rest of the happy band, they saw beauty shining in the brightness, we philosophers following in the train of Zeus, others in company with other gods, and then we behold in a beatific vision, like heavenly vision, we're initiated into the mystery, which may ever truly be called most blessed, celebrated by us in our state of innocence before we get any experience of the evils to come, when we were admitted to the sight of apparitions, innocent and simple and calm and happy, which we beheld shining in pure light. That's a typo, I think. Pure ourselves, and not yet enshrined in that living tomb which we carry about. The living tomb is our body. The souls are stuck in the body. Enshrined in that living tomb means your souls are stuck inside the flesh body that you live in, which we carry about now that we are imprisoned in the body, like an oyster in a shell. Let me linger over the memory of scenes which have passed away. So his point is that you partake of something when you fall in love. You're actually thinking of something kind of bigger and more important. So he's going to talk. He's going to talk next and a little bit more about beauty and what beauty does to the soul. But of beauty, I repeat again, that we saw her there shining in company with the celestial forms, and coming to earth we find her here too, shining in clearness through the clearest aperture of sense. Aperture means opening. So your senses are openings, like your eyeballs and your ears. You hear beautiful things, you see beautiful things, you taste beautiful things. So beauty sort of enters into your body through these things. Okay. For sight is among the most piercing of our bodily senses, though not by that is wisdom seen. Her loveliness would have been transporting if there had been a visible image of her, and the other ideas, if they had visible counterparts, would be equally lovely. But this is the privilege of beauty, that being the loveliest, she is also the most palpable to sight. So I mentioned earlier, I keep saying this phrase over and over again, which, by the way, I got from Plato, which is that the things that philosophers care about are beauty, truth, and goodness. There's other stuff in that list, like justice and temperance and, this kind of things. But beauty, truth, and goodness. Beauty, truth, goodness, justice, temperance. Let's say that. These are the things philosophers care about. But for Socrates, he says beauty isn't like those other ones. It's different. It's special. It's important. Why? Because in that list of things, beauty, truth, goodness, justice, temperance, you could go on and on. Beauty is the only one that is visible to the eye. Everything else is invisible. Goodness and temperance and justice, these are invisible things. But beauty is visible. And that's why it's the one it's kind of, for most people, it's the easiest heavenly thing to come in contact with and to think about it, because it's obviously visible. Whereas, like, doing the right thing is not a visible, it's like a mental thing. It's hard to know. Like, when you think about justice, what is justice? It's hard to picture in your mind. But beauty, you can think of a million examples of beauty. It's one of those things that is, it's the one that most people find easiest to access. It's the heavenly, higher, important philosophy thing that most people find easiest to access because it is invisible. Okay, cool. That's the end of this video.